living in Asia today. We're going to talk a little bit about expat life and what it's like to be an expat. Of course, we'd like to include anyone who's interested in joining this broadcast. If you've lived in Asia or live in Asia or have been to Asia, let's chat together. Let's have a good a discussion about Asia. For me, Asia is a fascinating place. How about you, Dan? Are you a fan of Asia?
Yeah, I mean my fascination with Asia has a lot to do with how I ended up here. I as a student in clear back in high school, the only foreign language I was interested in foreign countries. The only foreign language that was available at our high school was Spanish, and so of course I took that and even went to Spain and over the border into Mexico a time or two also. Um, but Europe and Central South America always seemed more familiar to me, both culturally nearer to America and familiar as well as linguistically. So when it came time to venture out on my own, and especially after I had my credentials as a English teacher, teaching English as a foreign language, I thought Asia, there's where I want to teach. There's where I want to go, because it just is fascinating, exciting, and so very different from American culture, what I grew up with anyway. Yeah. Oh, Abyss is here. Welcome, welcome, Abyss.
Welcome, Abyss. Yeah, thank you for saying hello. Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Me too. I was always fascinated with Asia too. I think ever since the Vietnam War and Pol Pot, yeah, that got me really interested in Asia and specifically Cambodia. Right? Yeah. I studied Spanish also a bit, but didn't have the pleasure to go to Spain. That must have been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't been there to this day. I'd love to go though. And I think just my fascination with Asia and my interest in food and culture actually led me here. I was living in New York City, going to school, had a lot of Japanese friends and Chinese friends, and married a Japanese girl from Kumamoto, and we came here, and I think it was kind of almost meant to happen. Yeah. Although I never studied Japanese before coming, so that was quite a shocker.
Yeah, I had, I studied Japanese, but it's like just barely. When I was in graduate school, I wasn't overly busy one summer, and so I took a non-intensive Japanese class over the summer, and it was, I think, a total of 12 classes. And like I said, not intensive, just your standard class. And from that, I learned, the basic, greetings. So aisatsu toka, and where is this? How much is that? Things like that. It didn't go very far, but at least it was a start. Yeah.
Right, that's one thing you learn quickly. Where's the bathroom, for example, or right, how much is this? You learn those things quickly. I tried to learn the sentence structure and just tried to remember some vocabulary to plug into the sentences. Yeah. The writing system, as you know, as everyone knows, is completely different from any Western language, right? The kanji, borrowed from Chinese, is, for me, it's fascinating because it's like a picture, pictographic, and it has a whole meaning within itself. But it's impossible. It's very difficult to memorize all the various kanji, yeah, that there are. I wanted to talk about the various countries, areas, and historical regions in Asia a little bit. There's the Sino region, Japan, Korea, and China, that kind of have a similar historical background, right? Similar kind of thinking, more Confucian, right, in the logical system. Yeah. So there's similar characteristics between those three countries, which I find very interesting, right? A lot of language borrowed from China and a lot of cultural items, right? Inventions borrowed from China. There's Indochina too. Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, Thailand, and Myanmar too, which is a really fascinating area for me. Have you been to any of those countries, Dan, in Indochina?
No, I haven't. Yeah, the Asian, as far as the Asian continent, the only place that I've been is I was in farther north in Korea. I visited South Korea and I visited Hong Kong. But other than that, it's only been the Philippines that I've actually physically been to. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, Vietnam, especially Vietnam because of, the influence of the war. Of course, that's something that's, ingrained in, in my memory is, that conflict and, if anything, feelings of guilt about being associated with such a abomination, I guess is a
Yeah,
polite
right.
way to put it. But I've always wanted to go there and see the because I've heard such wonderful things about it, about the people, and about the the beauty of the place itself, and go there. Mostly for the impact that it would have on me, on realizing what my country was involved in such a place. But anyway.
Indeed. Being American, you do feel that, you do think that way. And I've been to Vietnam twice, luckily enough, and yeah, it's a beautiful country. The people are great. It's just a fantastic place to visit. It's relaxed, and the culture is very interesting. The food is great, and they've forgotten about the war, fortunately, right? So. So it's really great to a great place to visit. I've only been to Dalat, which is I think middle of the country, and Ho Chi Minh City, or Saigon, right, which is southern Vietnam. But yeah, no, it's great. And Cambodia is another fascinating place. Yeah, I went there 11 times working on some research there. Yes, and actually after about 9 times. I'm like, oh, okay. I don't know how many more times I need to come here. No, but it's just a fascinating place. It draws me in. I don't know. It drew me in, Cambodia, because during the Vietnam War, it was an interesting place. And from the movie Apocalypse Now, I don't know if you remember that or if anyone remembers that.
Yeah.
Apocalypse Now, fascinating movie, really well done, right?
Absolutely.
And I was just enthralled with Cambodia, I guess, from that movie. And then because that was during, that was pre Pol Pot. It was during the war. But then Pol Pot, and if anyone's not familiar with Pol Pot, he was a vicious dictator in Cambodia who slaughtered maybe 2 million men. And many people he sent to work camps, and his goal was to make Cambodia an agrarian society, right? That is just, and it didn't work so well. So so people escaped. I remember in America, Cambodian refugees. Do you remember that? Like taking makeshift boats and coming across the Pacific in the 70s.
Yep. Iowa actually. My first exposure to anything Vietnamese, directly any part of Vietnamese culture was we had quite a number of Vietnamese that settled in Iowa. After the collapse of the South Vietnam, after the American withdrawal, a lot of them escaped, and some of them made it all the way to Iowa. And actually I had a young man that I was working with. I was kind of a counselor of his. I was helping him with. He was having some difficulties adjusting, with his life in America and so on. And I was more or less counseling him on daily living. And one year he invited me to the New Year's celebration with with the Vietnamese community there, and that was my first exposure to authentic Vietnamese food, and it was amazing.
Wow.
I mean, the decorations were great. The food was amazing. The people were wonderful. It was just a great experience.
It is a great experience, right? And yeah. It's a very nice country. Laos is interesting. I've been there once, and I want to go back. Thailand is great too. everybody knows, or many people know Thailand, right? It's a very interesting place as well. Myanmar, I'm lucky to say that I've been there twice. My supervisor in graduate school was Burmese from Myanmar, right, and could speak, Burmese, Japanese. He lived in Japan actually for about 45 years, but he could speak Burmese, of course, right, Japanese fluently and English fluently. So I had an opportunity to go a couple of times, but now it's just right. I think it's going to change for a little while there. Yeah. So, and then of course there's Southern Asia. Indonesia or Malaysia or maybe Philippines. Would you say is that Southern Asia? Would you say?
Oh yeah, I mean they're all neighbors, right? Yeah, so the Pacific Islands, the Southeast Asian island countries there, from the tip of Thailand, so from Singapore over to even Palau and Tuvalu and New Caledonia, places like that, that whole area.
Right. Yeah, indeed. Yeah. It's a very, very interesting area. Although the countries are not close to one another. Right. It takes time.
Well, actually, they're not that. I mean, it's no. I mean, you could take a boat from portions of the Philippines to Indonesia quite easily.
I guess that's right, isn't it? Sure.
In fact, that's been kind of a concern, is because Indonesia, as you know, is dominantly a Muslim country, whereas the Philippines is predominantly Catholic, and so some of the islands on the where those two countries are in close proximity, there's been some conflict between those two groups. People from Indonesia coming into the Philippines by boat, unofficially, through unofficial channels and so on. And there has been some conflict and so on.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. I didn't realize that it was that close. Okay. Yeah. Gosh. Yes. Yeah, I know Philippines has thousands of islands, right?
Yeah. Right. More than 7,000. More than 7,700 and something. I can't remember now. Yeah.
So is it easy to go from one island to the next? I know several you have to fly, but some have bridges.
I mean, basically you could take a boat, from any island to any other island, as long as you're willing to stop off. I mean, you can skirt along the coast and so on. It's there are a lot of islands, a lot of small islands, but it's very inefficient, and it is. I mean, not completely open because it is within the country itself. So there are islands and bits of land around there, but it's pretty close to feeling like the open ocean when you're in some of those spaces between the islands. So I wouldn't recommend it. And there have been passenger ships that have capsized and sunk, in the in transit between different Philippine islands. So I would take my chances on an airplane before a ship, traveling any distance. But then again, they have, so those of us in Japan are familiar with the shuttle boats, the Beetle, and so on, services between Fukuoka and the near Busan in South Korea, right? They have those kind of short shuttles between islands that are very very safe, very fast, very comfortable. For example, between Cebu and Bohol, the island next door, there's a very convenient shuttle that's, as far as I know, completely, very, very safe and quick and reasonably priced too.
Well, that's great. I remember when I came to your area, because you built a house there,
right,
in Tacloban, right? I had to take a flight to Manila and then another flight. Yeah. I think I had to stay overnight in Manila to take the flight from Manila to your little area the next morning. So that shows you just, how you have to navigate around Asia.
Yeah.
Very nice town though. And I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I mean, that layover was partly a result of the fact that we live in a more not remote, but not the a large metropolitan area here in Japan. If we lived in Osaka or Tokyo, then there are a lot more flights, a lot more choices, flying either directly into Manila or into Cebu, whereas from Fukuoka, there are only flights, at least regularly scheduled flights into Manila. So it's a little more restrictive. But yeah, with more choices, you might be able to get into Manila or Cebu early enough that you could make the flight without delay, without staying overnight. But unfortunately, where we are, that's not an option.
Okay. Yeah. Gotcha. You touched on something I do want to talk about today, and that's where we live here in Japan on the island of Kyushu. For those who are not familiar with Kyushu, it's the southernmost big island. If you imagine a backward sea, a backward sea, we're kind of in the center of the sea. Yeah. Right. In the center of the sea. It's a beautiful area, very, very rich and green. And in our prefecture, it's called, like state, there's an active volcano, which is really unique, I think. It's very unique to be living around the active volcano. That doesn't mean it's entirely safe, right?
Yep. Yeah,
because we had earthquakes.
The most active volcano. I mean, we're it's not just our volcano there. It's not just the Aso-san, but also Sakurajima down south in Kagoshima, which is just as active or more active even than our Aso. So Kyushu, I think Kyushu Island is one of the, if not the most active places of for volcanic activity in most of Asia.
You're absolutely right. I saw Sakurajima did actually spew some dust the other day. Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
Quite active. Yeah.
I remember it. It hasn't been too bad lately, but I remember 30 years ago when I came, a year or two, also was quite active, and the ash was leaving quite a like centimeters, an inch or so of ash on in Kumamoto City itself.
Wow, my gosh! All the way in Kumamoto City.
Yep.
Yeah, the volcano from Kumamoto City is I guess about 30 or 40 kilometers, I would say.
Right. Yeah, probably 40. Yeah.
About 40 kilometers. So that's quite a ways. I mean, it goes up and down in activity, I think. I think, in 2019, it was also quite active and spewed some ash around the Aso area.
We haven't had any pyroclastic. We haven't had any lava flows or anything like that. But the big danger, as you know, is the poison gas that is released periodically, and they'll shut down the observation for periods of time because of the gas that is being released.
That's right, exactly. So it depends on when you want to go and if you're lucky or not in order to be able to see the crater. But if you can go to the crater, if the conditions are favorable, you can actually look down into it, which is really fascinating. Yeah. So we actually, my family and I have a small cottage up there, and also not far from the crater. And we're staying there now actually this week. We usually go on weekends, but we decided to stay this week just for a little social distancing, as it were. So I'd like to maybe do a live broadcast from the Aso area.
All right, tell the truth, Jeff. They chased you out of town, right? That's where you.
They did. They're like, get out of here, go to Aso. Indeed.
Cool.
So I can commute to work. It's not that far, which is
right.
Good. Yeah.
So now that they've got the tunnel and the bridge is done too, right? Yeah. So
the bridge is done too, right? And Route 57, the main route going up there, is also completed. So there's several routes you can take. So I think people might be interested in seeing that. It's one of, if not the largest volcano caldera in the world. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I've heard that it is the largest. Yeah. Hmm.
I've heard that. Yeah, and when you go up, and depending on where you are, you can actually see the caldera, the rim of the volcano around, yeah, from various spots. So, yeah, I think people would like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a very beautiful area in the middle of Kyushu, right, southernmost Big Island. Other areas in Asia that really are fascinating to me are the Himalaya area, yeah, Nepal and India, and Bhutan, which I've heard a lot about. I met a few people from Bhutan. They were actually students at Kumamoto University here.
Hmm.
And they say it's an interesting country. It just seems fascinating.
Mm.
They're one of the few countries who has a happiness index,
Ah, yes.
right? So, and they measure happiness. I thought that was fantastic. Yeah, and so they're really happy. And one reason it is, I think it's a good idea. They limit tourists. They limit tourism. There's only a certain number of tourists who can go in every year.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, those areas too. I've always been fascinated. Places like Tibet, and as you know, you remember Prada Sensei from Nepal. Who's a university professor here. He's retired now, and I think he's returned back. He's returned to Nepal now. Yeah, but those are.
Remember.
Tibet, of course, under the control of the Chinese now, a little less desirable for a travel destination for me. But Nepal would be a fascinating place to go to. And I have met just a small handful, the professor that I talked about, but I have met just a small handful of exchange students that were studying here in Japan from Nepal. Very amenable, very, very nice people.
Indeed.
Friendly. Yeah.
There are a few studying in Kumamoto from Nepal. That's right. I actually did go to Nepal, but only to Kathmandu. I went to a teaching conference over there about 4 years ago. It was great. You can't see Everest really from Kathmandu unless it's a really clear day, right, and sunny. Although when I was flying into Kathmandu, we could see Everest peeking out of the clouds. It was fascinating. It's like, the people next to me said, "Well, that's Mount Everest over there. You see that little hill over there?"
Doesn't have anything directly to do with this, but talking about Everest, I just watched some video. I think it was on YouTube. I can't remember the title of it, but I remember they were talking about climbing Mount Everest and so on, and what an arduous task it is, and the fact that the success rate, the percentage of people out of all the climbers, the percentage of people that make it to the top as a ratio to the number of people who die in the attempt is something like 4%, 4 or 5% of the, so it's a little bit scary. I mean, it's so many people have done it now that it's like, oh yeah, anybody can do it kind of image almost, even though it's the highest mountain in the world, but it actually making it to the summit is quite an amazing feat.
I've actually watched quite a few YouTube videos on climbing Mount Everest too, and I think it was 2019 or 2020, I can't remember exactly. There was a huge bottleneck, right? A huge crowd trying to get to the summit, right? And you had to wait for hours upon hours, right, to take your turn to get to the summit. Yeah, and this is very hard on people because they're freezing, right? Can't move, you can't walk, right? You have to pretty much stay in line, right? Because you can't go back. There's too many people. So, and I think quite a few people died that year, if I'm not mistaken.
Hey, Jeff, we've got a friend of mine, Noime.
Noime? Okay, I see that.
Yeah, why don't you go ahead and invite her? She might not have a camera, but she might be willing to talk with us a little bit if you just give her an invite there.
Sure. I just let me see. I'm going to invite her. What is it? At Noime.
If you click on her message, isn't one of the things invite?
Is it? No. Invite user. Yes. Okay.
Okay, I thought so. Yeah. All right. You rookies, I tell you.
Sorry, I am a rookie. Dan, you're the pro around here.
All right, don't get no. I'm a rookie plus one, maybe, you know.
So I just do that, just invite user, that's all.
Yeah, now she has the invite, so it's up to her to accept that invitation and to come on. And I think she would have to, just like when we set up a broadcast, she'd have to choose her camera and microphone or whatever, enable those type of things and so on. But if I remember right, her camera wasn't working the last time I talked to her, I think. So she might not be able, but again, she might be able to have a little voice chat with us if she'd like. But yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would be fine too. Sure.
Yep,
Absolutely. With a Babagnon, is it? Babagnon? Hello from Babagnon. And that's, do you know where that is, Dan?
Not exactly, no.
I'm not exactly sure either. But yeah, sounds interesting. Sounds fascinating. It could be around Asia.
Oh, she's Philippines, right?
Oh, okay. Philippines. Okay. Yeah, I don't think you said that. But yeah, great. Please do join us if you can. Yeah. So Dan, where are you interested in visiting around Asia when you have a chance? You did say India, I think.
Yeah, India, Nepal, places like Kyrgyzstan, would be kind of interesting. Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan.
I've been to those countries. Yeah, they're fascinating.
Yeah.
Central Asia.
Yeah.
Fascinating.
But yeah, I mean, places. I have not been to Singapore, which I would like to go to. I haven't been to Taiwan, which I'd like to go to, as well as Indonesia. Again, another country made up of thousands of islands, and I could, my experience with the Philippines, if it's any indication, I mean, even though it's one country, the wide variety of different things you might be able to see in the different places, locations in Indonesia would be absolutely fascinating, and exactly the same thing could be said about places like Malaysia and so on. Yeah.
Definitely, right. And I've never been to India. I'd love to go to India and Bhutan, like I said, and yeah, indeed.
Check out Micronesia. Micronesia, the Truk Islands and places like that. That would be fascinating. Cool.
Yeah, I've been to Guam and I've been to Palau actually, which were great, right? But yeah,
those are a little more on the beaten track, though. I'm kind of interested in getting off the beaten track. Micronesia, it's not like nobody knows about it, but it's not quite a Guam or a Palau type of place. It's a little bit more remote, maybe.
Yes, it is. That's true. Yeah. Right. And Fiji, I guess, is becoming more on the beaten track.
Right. Yeah.
For a while, it was off the beaten track too. Yeah.
I mean, once Americans start taking notice, there it goes.
You noisy Americans, here they are again. Right. Yeah. So, what is your favorite place? Let's focus on Asia that you've been around Asia.
My favorite place that I've been around Asia. I mean, that's really hard. That's kind of like, asking me what my favorite movie is or what my favorite food is. I mean, regardless of what my favorite movie is, I don't want to only watch that movie, or what my favorite food is. That's not the only thing I want to eat, So my favorite place in Asia, I mean, the place that I want to go back the most often to is the Philippines. I feel very comfortable there. And it's a combination. The Philippines, my desire to spend more time there is a combination of a lot of things. One, of course, is my home is built there. But beyond that, the reason I built my home there is because, I mean, it's beautiful. The people are friendly. And, the big bonus is, even though it's a Southeast Island nation, Southeast Asian island country, if I can say that.
Yes. No. Yeah.
They all speak English. I can communicate in English, right? So that that's a big plus. I'm not limited to to going only, around with a tour guide, or going only, to the staying at the hotels and so on, where where tourists frequent a lot. So those places where everybody speaks English, of course, but basically anywhere in the country I can go and I can communicate in English. So that's a big bonus for me.
That is a plus. That is a plus. Language barrier can be difficult at times, for sure. For sure. Right. Yes. Yeah, I love the Philippines too. I've been there twice. I went to Clark, Philippines,
Mm-hmm.
which used to be the Air Force base
Mm-hmm.
there for the United States, right, when they had military there. So that was great. I enjoyed that. I've been only to Indonesia once, and not to Bali. So yeah, I regret to say I've never been to Bali. I've wanted to go several times and just never made it. But I went to Malang on Surabaya, right, which was great as well. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Yeah, I know it's hard to pick one favorite, isn't it?
Right.
These are all very different, and
I
they
mean,
just
even within the Philippines, it's hard to pick a favorite because Manila was my first experience, and that was interesting. It was fascinating because it was so different than anything I had experienced until then. But I was very happy to get out of there and see other places, and Cebu, another large city, but yet very, very different in in the way people live there. And the language, of course, is completely different there also. But then the same island as Manila, the northern part, the Ilocos areas, Ilocos Norte, Ilocos Sur, are very, very different type of places. And again, the people were kind and wonderful. The scenery was beautiful. The food was delicious and different than I've had any other places in the Philippines. So I can see my retirement years spending a lot of time just island hopping around the Philippines.
wow. Yeah, that sounds interesting. What about the indigenous language in the Philippines?
Yeah, that's just it. I mean, everybody, or maybe not everybody, but it's quite common knowledge that the main language, or the predominant, the official language is Tagalog, or it's actually Filipino, but that's 99% Tagalog, the same as Tagalog.
Mhm.
But that's not actually the language spoken by most people. The most predominant, the language spoken by most people is Cebuano, which based in Cebu and across the central Visayas areas, and even down into Mindanao.
Gotcha.
But there are what, at least 500 distinct languages.
Wow.
There are literally thousands of dialects, and so on. But actual distinct languages, there are 500. Some of them, unfortunately, are disappearing because of the various influence and the reasons that languages are disappearing across the globe. The same kind of influences are causing that in the Philippines also.
Yeah. It's a fascinating point. That little point. There's so many different languages, and right, and it's too bad that they're disappearing. So English down there is a lingua franca, or is it more? Is it an official language at all?
It is an official language, yeah. So the Filipino, which you can basically, it's a Tagalog, or the Filipino language, and English are both official languages. And so, legal documents, I think, are written in both, or I think the Constitution is written in both. And, so legal documents written in English are completely binding, since English is, one of the two official languages.
Okay.
So, which is another advantage, if you're going to enter into a contract, you can require them, ask them to do it in English so that you're going to be able to comprehend it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't happen in Japan, actually.
No.
Or other countries as well. No, I think it wouldn't happen. Yeah, so that's good. That is a good point. Very, very good point. Yeah,
but
indeed.
Talking about Japan and language and English, one of the things that I noticed in coming on to Japan is, I came to Japan, and at that time, as I said, I'd only spent a couple of months studying Japanese, and I really couldn't communicate at all, beyond my, saying things like my name is or where's the bathroom, beyond that, I didn't have a lot. But when I came to Japan and, when I talked to the Japanese, they were always apologetic that they couldn't speak English.
That's true.
Here I am. I'm coming to Japan. The burden should be on me to learn the language of the country that I'm going to, and yet the Japanese are apologetic that they don't speak English, right?
You're right. That's true.
You never hear an American in America say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't speak Bahasa Indonesia," or "I'm sorry, I don't speak Ukraine, Russian or whatever." It's like, hey, if you're in America, you better damn well speak American.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, but it's true in Japan. You do find that, right? Some people are like, English? No. You're like, well, that's English.
Sorry, no English.
Right. No English, no English, right?
Yeah.
Or even they go as far as like, well, I'm sorry, I really can't speak English all that well.
Right. Yeah.
That's English. It's almost perfect. Yeah, it is funny like that. It's great. It's charming, It's and the burden should be on us. And I mean, I felt that I should, learn Japanese, and I have over the years, right? I regret that I never really took a Japanese class, but I mean, I've been able to do pretty well. I mean, just, in day-to-day life and whatnot. As I think I said last time, I can recognize a lot of kanji, the meaning, right, here in Japan. Of course, hiragana and katakana, we pick up those quite easily. Those are symbolic, right, representation of consonant and vowel, right? So those are quite easy to remember. They're almost like letters. But kanji is really hard. I can recognize a lot of meanings, right? I can read a lot and know the meaning, but sometimes I can't pronounce it. I can't read it right out loud. I don't know the pronunciation. Yeah. There you go, katakana. So you touched on another point that I wanted to kind of talk on. I know some other people who've lived in some other countries, some friends of ours, some teachers here in Japan who've actually lived in other countries around Asia before coming to Japan. And I think that's interesting. So they've been elsewhere, they've lived in other countries, and they've come to Japan, right? And I think Japan is a good country to live. It's very safe, and the salaries are quite high, and they really take care of you. So why did you pick Japan, Dan, or did Japan pick you?
Yeah, I had opportunities outside of Japan. I could have chosen. As I talked about before, I kind of eliminated Europe and South America from my potential places of employment due to excessive familiarity, I thought. And I eliminated the Middle East and Africa because of my feelings of unease in going into those places and living for an extended period of time. So that basically left Asia for me. Australia, but Australia, they don't need English teachers. So and left Asia. And when I was searching for jobs, I had a choice. I was offered jobs in South Korea, in mainland China, Taiwan, and Japan. I had those four choices.
Oh.
And it was basically, I felt that probably the technology level and safety factors and also the job that I was offered, the support that was going to be there for me, rather than being thrust into a situation basically alone and me having to deal with it. There was a lot of support already in the job that I was offered initially in Japan. And so for those reasons, I chose Japan, but it could have been any of those four countries just as easily, really. Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. I didn't know that. I don't think I knew that. I didn't have that opportunity or that choice. I came directly to Japan on the JET program, Japan Exchange and Teaching Program.
Mhm.
where you have to apply and go on an interview and get accepted. And so I came straight to Kumamoto, and I'm really happy I did. Very,
Mhm.
very happy. I'm very, very happy here. It's really a great, great place to live. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
When
yeah.
I was going to say, when I came, so it was a large group. Part of that support was the fact that a large group of Americans all came at the same time. Many of them from directly from America. Many of us, it was my first teaching job, my first overseas, not my first overseas travel, but my first overseas long-term stay and so on.
Mhm.
But there were a subset of the teachers, another group of teachers that had extended experience in other countries. And at that time, there was some unrest in Malaysia that was occurring about that time. This is about 34 years ago, something like that. And so these people were looking for a way to get out of Malaysia because of some policies that were changing that didn't seem to be favorable to foreigners at that time.
Oh,
And so,
wow.
they had that experience, and I heard lots of stories. Malaysia. One of the things that you could expect was that
Yeah.
the cost of living was very low, and the food was great, and the experience was wonderful, and the teaching experience, the teaching work itself was good, but you could expect that your living quarters be that and most people could afford to rent a house, a full house with with the garden and so on their own, but you could expect that it would be broken into about once a year. It
Wow.
was just like that happened. So there's enough impoverished people there that people that have a little money, the assumption is you've got a little extra, and somebody will break in and take a little of that extra.
Wow. Okay. That's not good. That's not good. What are some other things that happen? You said some foreigners were kind of going through some hard times there.
Like
Besides that,
yeah. So I mean, I don't really know. I mean, and again, we're talking 34 years ago. This, and I'm getting this information secondhand. But like I said, this was something. A large group of people that were, these teachers were involved in some program teaching in Malaysia, and like I said, whatever it was, the government position about something anyway. It made groups of foreigners feel less comfortable than they had been before that, and so they were just looking for opportunities to get out of the country, and that just happened to be timing wise when that job that I took in Niigata, Japan, opened up, and so there was an opportunity for not just a couple, but there were 25 of us altogether that
wow.
came either from Asia, America, or even a few from other positions in Japan. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Great. Great. Yeah. Sounds interesting. When you came here, I mean, for me, when I came here, in order to adjust, right, or during my adjustment phase, I think, yeah, there was a bit of culture shock.
Mm,
But during, on the JET program, you're really, really well taken care of. So
mm,
you're explained, everything's explained to you, and you're taken around and whatnot. And so everything is really good. Your school teaching situation is very, very good, and people
yeah.
do take care of you. But one thing that was surprising to me was the ceremonial aspect
Yeah.
of everything in Japan. Yeah,
Yeah.
everything is quite ceremonial and quite
Yes.
proper and right,
Yep.
scheduled down to the T.
Yes.
I found that amazing.
Yep.
Yes, all trains. I mean, if it says 8:04 a.m. on the train schedule, which are train schedules are located at every train station. Yes, I mean, if it says 8:04, that train is there at 8:04. That's fantastic. Was there anything surprising for you during your adjustment?
Yeah, the things that you just talked about, definitely, surprising. Yeah, this attention to detail,
Mm.
and the ceremonial aspect, and everything, uh, everything done so, so many things done so formally. And but what kind of struck me, I think the thing that really surprised me was when talking to Japanese about religion, and
Mm.
how not anti-religious at all, but a-religious. They just basically, have no interest in it, and yet they still most Japanese, well, I don't have figures at all, but I would argue that most Japanese still go to the shrines
Mhm.
on soon after New Year's to do their Hatsumode, to do their first
Yeah.
visit to the shrine. It's not so much that they believe it so much in their hearts, but this is what you do, and so that's a big part of Japanese culture, doing
yeah.
what everybody does.
Doing what everybody does, and ceremonial. It's a ceremonial aspect almost,
Exactly.
actually, right? It's like
Exactly.
people do
Yeah.
that, and I have to do that too. Yeah, right. Whether there's that extra uh, belief, right, in there or not, right? They'll still do it. Yeah, that is interesting, actually. Sure, sure, sure. Fascinating stuff, right?
Yep.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And I remember being, for example, just talking about detail in a faculty meeting here, and there was a long document on diploma policy, I think it was, and maybe I guess it was about 12 pages in this dense Japanese, right? And they go through it, and someone will say, "Well, maybe this one word,
Mm.
this one kanji is should be a different kanji, all right? Or
Yes.
this one word should be a different word." Oh
Yep.
my gosh!
Yeah.
Wow, that
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
that
it's
is
amazing the
that's
attention to detail that they have, But you were talking about culture shock, and so I mean that was surprising to me. But then again, to a certain extent, I was expecting differences, and so it wasn't such a shock to me. And as I said, when similar to you, I guess your JET program, a lot of support, and like I said, 25 of us all went together, and so there was a lot of people in the same situation, and a lot of support from the school that we worked at and so on. And a lot of the interaction that we had with the people in the town were with people that either were familiar with foreigners or were interested in foreigners and wanted that interaction and so on. So that wasn't actually such a great culture shock as it might have been if I had chosen one of those other three jobs that I talked about and I had been on my own and just had to sink or swim kind of thing.
right, right.
But when I felt culture shock was after I had lived in Japan for about 3 years and I went back to the United States and I felt like I was in a foreign country because I had become acclimated to the Japanese culture and the Japanese way of doing things. And now I went back to America and it's like, I don't feel at home here anymore.
Yeah, I know, right. I
That
experienced
to me was
that too.
shock. That was shock.
No,
Yeah.
that was shocking. Yeah, I know. I think I was here and I didn't leave for about a year and a half. My sister got married, so I did go back then, and I actually stayed with a friend in New York and rented a car and drove back to Pennsylvania. But as soon as I got off the plane and my friend picked me up at the airport, he was like, "Why are you talking so slowly?" Just living in Japan as a teacher, you speak very slowly and clearly so everyone can hear you, and
Yeah.
he was like, "You don't have to speak that slowly. Come on, dude." So,
Yeah.
that was quite, yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a kind of difference. Also, you can feel it in airports, right?
Mm.
It's just in Japan, it's like everybody's running around with their cute little suitcases, and and in America, it's different. Yeah,
That's one thing, though. I mean, I love so many things about Japan, so organized and so efficient and everything. But one thing that kind of, disturbs me a little to one level, at least, about the Japanese airports is there's a scheduled time, check-in time, and they plan that so that everybody can just get through in time. They will not open up. They will not open up that line ahead of that schedule for whatever reason whatsoever, right? But
yeah.
when I go to the Philippines, it's like anytime, the anytime that day, if you can go in and check in ahead of time, it actually helps things because they don't have that crush. But at the Japanese airports, everybody stands in line for hours because they're lining up waiting for that 2 hour slot or whatever to do all the check-in. They just have to get it done during that time.
Yeah, Dan, they're paying attention to that structure, right? You have to start exactly at 10:20. Well, it's 10:19. Oh my gosh, yeah, right. Sure, waiting for that 10:20 mark. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's another interesting thing about Japan, and that actually does show it pretty well, right?
Yeah.
Attention to detail and structure.
Yep.
Here. Yes,
Yep.
indeed. Yeah. Well, that's great. So yeah, I think it's
So
good living in Asia.
my friend that we invited, unfortunately,
Mhm.
said, "I am really sorry. I'm having a bad internet. I'm trying to join, but it does not work."
Oh, really? Oh, too bad. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, unfortunately that location just doesn't seem to have the internet connection right now. So hopefully that'll be something that improves. No, that's something that I've just heard about the Philippines. They've got a new internet provider. Until now, there have been two companies that have completely dominated the internet services in the Philippines, and now a new company has opened up, and it looks like competition is going to be a good thing for the internet. Oh, high five!
High
Thank you.
five. Thanks, Mercy.
Well,
All right. Thank you very much.
don't give that to Jeff. Save that for me. What are you doing?
I'll give you one next time, Mercy. No doubt about it.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
There you go. Okay.
Yeah. So sounds great. And I think we can wrap it up now. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who's watching, and thanks, Mercy, for the high five award.
Yep.
I'd like to do a live broadcast, like I said, from Oslo, right?
Mhm.
From Mount Oslo in the next day or two. Hopefully, the weather will be nice. So please look forward to that, everyone. I'll schedule it, of course, and hopefully that'll work out well. Thank you very much, Dan, and please
Yep.
join Dan and I for Layman's Philosophy every Wednesday at 11 o'clock a.m. Japan time.
Right on. Every Wednesday. That's right. Every Wednesday. Write it down. Please subscribe. Um, and yeah, during our guests are always welcome. Right? Guests are always welcome. If you'd like to come online, that would be wonderful.
Indeed, and next Thursday at 1:30, I'll be back on here as well, talking about expat related situations.
Yes. Yeah.
Fun and excitement.
Yeah. He was busy today, but there's a man. His name is Randy, who's here on HAPS, and he lives in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, that would be great.
Wouldn't it be? Yeah, yeah. I'm hoping that we can get him online. That would be great.
Yeah, yeah. That would be great. And to have many people who are living abroad, right, in various countries. Now, that would be really cool.
Yep, yep. We'll work on that.
Let's join us for more expat adventures. Yeah. Thank you very much again, everyone.
Yep.
Thank you, Dan.
Yep. Thank you, Jeff.
No problem. And yep, see you all next time.
Yep. Cool.
Bye-bye.